All right, welcome back, folks. I am Graham Giuseppe Matthews, and this is the final installment in our 2-month running SummerSlam review series here on WrestleRant. Dating back to mid-June, I've been reviewing every single installment of SummerSlam as seen on the WWE Network, of course, in addition to all the shows I reviewed last summer here on the channel. And we finally arrived to SummerSlam 2014 before SummerSlam 2015, where yours truly will be in attendance, tomorrow night as I record this. So this is going up on Saturday, but wow, it's been a crazy 2 months, man. It's been a crazy 2 months watching all of these pay-per-views, and I mean crazy in the best way possible, much like it was with WrestleMania. It's just been so much fun watching all of these shows because they're all so great, you know. 28 years or 28 or 27 different shows, SummerSlam shows I've been watching on the network, and almost all of them have been good to great, some not so great, but on the whole, though, it's been a fun review series here on WrestleRant. I had a lot of fun doing it. So, SummerSlam 2014, easily, I mean, it goes without saying, easily one of my favorite SummerSlam shows that I've been a fan for. 2011 I loved, 2008 I loved, 2013 might be my favorite, but 2014 also, is very near and dear to my heart and being a great show. Such a tremendous show from top to bottom. And John will tell you, who I watched a show with last year at his place, that it was the single best show of 2014, even beating out WrestleMania. And I might agree with that. I don't know if it was better than WrestleMania, but it was certainly my favorite pay-per-view of the year, along with John, of 2014. Such an incredible show. So kicking off the show with the Intercontinental Championship, The Miz defending against Dolph Ziggler. So this kind of stems from the Battleground pay-per-view 1 month prior when The Miz returned, and I was also at that show when The Miz came back. A month later after that, at Battleground, won the Battleground over-the-top rope Battle Royale to win the vacated Intercontinental Championship by lastly eliminating Dolph Ziggler. The next night on Raw, Ziggler beat Miz in non-title action, setting up this match for SummerSlam. Now, up to this point, Ziggler and Miz had a lot of great in-ring chemistry, this match being a prime example of that. But up to this point, though, they had never actually had a one-on-one feud. So I was really happy to see them engage in a feud in time for SummerSlam. Ziggler was not been doing anything with him since SummerSlam the year before this, when he wrapped up his feud with AJ and Big E. But after that, though, they did next to nothing with the guy, so it was really great to see him finally get some direction, especially with the victory on the show, which I did not see coming. I'm sure I was not the only one who thought Miz was retaining here, especially considering he had just won the belt at Battleground. But no complaints, though. The outcome was great. It was a pleasant shocker, and the match itself was awesome. I thought, I ranked it at number 10 of my top 10 best Intercontinental Championship matches in SummerSlam history. And I firmly believe that. Maybe with a few more minutes, it could have been more special. It only got about 8 minutes, but still, that's an ample amount of time for an Intercontinental title match, and it was a great opener. These guys, like I said, work very, very well together. One awesome near fall that I completely forgot about until I watched the show back. And remember, this is my first time watching the show back since it initially aired last year. So that was a lot of fun, too, watching it back only a couple days ago. But anyway, one of the spots in this match towards the end that I completely forgot about that was so freaking great was Dolph Ziggler going for Famouser on Miz. It looked like he hit it. It looked like he connected. Miz went down with it, but not all the way. He pulled out of it at the last minute. So Ziggler performs the Famouser, misses, kind of, selling his leg injury or hurting his leg. And in selling his knee or his injured leg or whatever, Miz capitalizes, hits a skull-crushing finale from behind for a great 2 count. That was awesome. So right after that, Miz goes for a boot on Ziggler in the ropes. Ziggler reverses, follows up with a zigzag to pick up the clean victory, the 1-2-3, and his second Intercontinental title in over 3.5 years. So the crowd goes crazy, a nice little way of kicking off the show, and a very, very good match. I thoroughly enjoyed that in the series of matches these two had over the IC title over the course of that fall/summer. After that, for the Divas Championship, we had Paige contending for the gold against AJ Lee. And again, a good match, but the thing about this feud is that it never really lived up to its expectations, in my opinion, and I'm sure many other people will tell you the same exact thing. It's not that they had a bad feud, it was more just the fact that they never really got the time to produce the match they were capable of. The Battleground match, some may have argued, was better than this match. I thought this was a good match for the 5 minutes they were given. I mean, I know Stephanie and Brie weren't given that much time either. They were given about 11 minutes later on in the show, and that was supposed to be, one of the marquee matches on the event. 5 minutes is better than 4 minutes. I can kind of go that route and kind of appreciate the time they were given. But in all honesty, though, they really could have been given a lot more time, or at least a couple more minutes. You know, the whole Divas Revolution that we're getting right now is awesome, but I just wish that we would have gotten it at this point last year, so the women could have gotten more time with their matches. But nevertheless, though, for the time they were given, it was a nice little match. And again, I like the callbacks. Their previous matches, their previous encounters. The commentators acknowledged, you know, when AJ had lost the belt for the first time to Paige and at the WrestleMania, and then when AJ came back, also at the show that I was at on June 30th last year in Hartford. And when AJ came back and beat Paige for the Divas Championship, leading us to this point, and then Paige turning heel on her afterwards, successfully performing a double turn with the two women. So I liked how they brought that up. But again, I like matches, and I've talked about this before, I like matches that feel more like sequels than they do rematches, if that makes sense. Not like the same exact match back to back to back. You know, that's great. Like, we can have an amazing match. Like the Owens and Cena match from, was it Battleground, the third match in July? That one kind of felt like a rematch of the second one, whereas the second one felt like a sequel to the first, in that they kind of did the same spots, but one would reverse it and see it coming. You know, that kind of makes sense, because in reality, if someone tries to do the same move on you they did the first time, and you would think back to that moment when they hit it on you the first time, and therefore you would reverse it. You know, that's where it kind of makes sense. But anyway, and back to this match though. I think Paige was about to hit the Paige Turner, and AJ reverses that into the Black Widow, which the commentators didn't really pick up on. I was a little disappointed by that, but not surprised considering, you know, it's commentary, it's WWE commentary. But I thought it was a great spot. I mean, I know a lot of people will probably pick up on this as well, but and going from the Paige Turner to the Black Widow, an obvious callback to the night after WrestleMania when Paige was locked in the Black Widow and AJ, had it reversed, or, Paige reversed it into the Paige Turner, and in this case, they did it backwards where you had the Paige Turner into the Black Widow. So that was really cool. So then Paige is about to tap out. She gets out of it. She reverses that. It's a great reversal into the Rampage, or the double arm DDT, which she does not do anymore from what I've seen anyway. Maybe she stopped doing it. I don't exactly remember. But she hits that on AJ to get the clean 1-2-3 and win her second Divas title on her 22nd birthday. Her second Divas title on her 22nd birthday. It's poetic justice. I thought it was awesome. And Paige had to win here in order to keep the feud going. And I wasn't a fan of her dropping it the very next month at Night of Champions. And the feud kind of dropped off from there. The whole crazy girl thing. They were besties, and they were enemies. They were frenemies, and they were like a lesbian lover. It was really weird. The whole feud. They really didn't know what direction to take it in, and therefore it suffered as a result. So it was kind of disappointing towards the end, unfortunately. But a good match, nevertheless, and the right result with Paige becoming a 2-time Divas champion. So after that, we had a flag match between Rusev and Jack Swagger. Again, not really again, but I thought this was something that kind of started at the Raw that I was at when Jack Swagger went babyface in the June 30th Raw and confronted Rusev, leading to their match at Battleground, which was okay. It ended in a count-out, thus leading to this match, this flag match between Rusev and Swagger. Now, going into it, no one really knew the rules, and it made sense that you would have had to grab the flag. Anything on a pole matches are stupid, and this is the one case that probably would have gone with that stipulation, where the winner would have had to take the flag and and reclaim it from one of the turnbuckle posts. That makes the most sense, if only because it would have prevented Jack Swagger from getting pinned. He didn't tap out. He didn't get pinned in this match, granted. He passed out, but I thought that would have been a better ending. People weren't really all that hot for Swagger just passing out. It was a good match. People were really like this feud. They were very much behind Jack Swagger. His loss was Rusev's gain, and all the heat that he got going into the rest of the year. But I still say to this day, they really squandered a golden opportunity to finally do something with Jack Swagger. He was on fire for that entire summer, but then after that feud fizzled out, after SummerSlam, they didn't do anything with the guy. And I'm not saying he needed to be world champion again. He's not at that level, but he could have been a solid mid-card act with the We the People gimmick. And he still gets, people still cheer him to this day when he does that chant, because it's an easy thing to chant, and it's catchy, whatever. But he's also a very good athlete. But the thing is that they just made him lose to Rusev time and time and time again. Week after week, they just had him lose. The same exact fashion, too. They had matches for weeks on end where he was made to look like a loser. Then why would you book the match in the first place? The flag stipulation never really came into play at any point in this contest. It wasn't until afterwards that Rusev grabbed the flag and was celebrating over the fallen Jack Swagger. That was about it. And then Rusev and Lana or Rusev would kick Zeb Coulter in the face and knock him over to ringside. Zeb Coulter would come back from that a couple weeks later, but when he was attacked by Rusev the next time later on that year during the revival of the rekindling of their rivalry at the end of the year, going to TLC, Zeb Coulter never came back, and he hasn't been back on WWE TV since. And I don't think they plan on bringing him back because they really don't have any plans for Jack Swagger, unfortunately. But yeah, this was a good match. I mean, there was the right result. I know a lot of people wanted to see Swagger win, but it was way too soon in Rusev's run to have him get beat. But still, even still, you could have had Swagger win by not, with the stipulation I just mentioned, by having him reclaim the flag from one of the turnbuckle posts, and then thus allowing Rusev to not get pinned. I thought that was the best course of action, but because you had to get pinned, Swagger had to lose, and, again, he did not get pinned, he didn't get submitted, he just passed out, which is better than getting pinned or submitted. Kind of a lackluster finish, but the right person went over, and it was an entertaining match. Nevertheless, a significant improvement over their Battleground bout. So after that, Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose in a lumberjack match. Now, I remember being pretty disappointed when it was announced that this match at SummerSlam, this long-awaited match between Rollins and Ambrose after they fought in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and they did the old bait and switch at Battleground the month before when they were scheduled to first fight. With this match, I was pretty disappointed they went with the old lumberjack stipulation, because lumberjack matches are rarely good. From my opinion, from the time I've been watching, or just, basically from what I've seen, lumberjack matches are a giant clusterfuck. And it's basically given to matches that they either don't really care about or, whatever. Because it always ends in a giant brawl. Much like this one, but it was done in a way that made sense and I liked it. But wow, this might be, just very well might be the greatest lumberjack match in the history of WWE. I'm pretty sure JBL said that on commentary, and I couldn't agree more with him. I thought this was a great match. I mean, you got to consider who was involved here, though. Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, easily, hands down, in my opinion. I mean, some people might say Daniel Bryan and The Authority, but in my opinion, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose had the feud of the year in 2014. You take into consideration their promos, the matches like this one, the storyline work week to week to week, it was tremendous. Every single week was something new between these two. And this match was no exception. I really enjoyed it. They went all over the arena. And again, you're probably asking yourself, or were asking yourself during this pay-per-view while watching it, and it kind of defeats the stipulation of the Lumberjacks, but, don't go too far there, because they did have the Lumberjacks go out into the crowd and try to get control of Ambrose and Rollins. They went all over the arena, right into the WWE universe, as WWE would call it. And Kane came out. He tried to restore order. Everyone was just kind of going at it. And Rollins, at one point, when Ambrose was left lying in the audience, Rollins tried to head to the back, but I think it was Kofi Kingston, Big E, and maybe a few others. This was before and after the whole New Day thing, after they tried to do the stable with them in mid-July, and it didn't really pan out, so they took him off TV altogether. But it was him and a few others, I think, that picked up Rollins and threw him back into the ring, where Ambrose was waiting for him, and he tried to get the upper hand, only for Kane to get involved, help Rollins win, knock him out with the briefcase, and pick up the victory. And it was pretty nice. I mean, you had that whole lumberjack war, and it was weird, too, because Kane, after getting involved and knocking out Dean Ambrose, Goldust, of all people, actually walked in the ring. This was when he was doing the whole stint with Stardust, and he would actually turn heel 8 days later on Raw, interestingly enough. But, the very next, but what I'm saying is that when Goldust came into the ring at the very next moment in this contest, and he confronted Kane, the people went crazy for it. Goldust was still over at this point in time. They had not completely ruined him in the eyes of the fans, but they went crazy for that, and Kane just knocked them right down, and enter all the Lumberjacks who just go all for each other. It's just an all-out brawl between all of the Lumberjacks. Ambrose takes out Harper and Rowan, and in the meantime, as I mentioned, Rollins, gets back up, hits Ambrose with the briefcase, and picks up the 1-2-3. So a great match, and like I said earlier, the greatest Lumberjack match I probably have ever and will ever see. So after that, we had Bray Wyatt versus Chris Jericho in a very good match. I thought it was a lot better than their Battleground match, which was kind of the theme for this show. But I know I'm not the only one who thought this feud, it wasn't a bad feud. It's really hard what to call this feud. I hate to call underwhelming, but I think that might be the best word for it. Because the Battleground match was kind of boring. They didn't really click. They didn't really have the kind of in-ring chemistry I thought they would. They had some really good matches. This was a really good match. The Steel Cage match was probably the best of the bunch. And their matches got gradually better and better. But you would think that right off the bat, these two would have amazing instant in-ring chemistry with one another, and that was simply not the case for whatever reason. But although it was kind of slow at some points, the crowd was not thoroughly behind this match the entire time. They would come alive with Y2J, Let's Go Wyatt chants or whatever. Jericho at one point hitting a code breaker, and it would lead over to ringside when Jericho got hit with a Sister Abigail in the barricade. Wyatt throws him back in the ring, hits another Sister Abigail to pick up the victory, and cuts a promo on him afterwards, singing he's got the whole world in his hands, etc., etc. So, a pretty good match. Bray Wyatt picking up the victory via, in clean fashion. Eric Rowan and Luke Harper were banned from ringside after Jericho had beaten them in the weeks before this in singles competition, thus allowing them to not get involved in this match. So, it kind of left Wyatt to prove it all on his own that he could beat Jericho, and he did. So, I thought it was a really good match from the two. Although the feud was not amazing, the matches were, average to above average at times. So I thought this was a good match from Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho with definitely the right winner. After that, Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella in a match that really no one thought was going to be as good as it was. I thoroughly enjoyed this match, if only to see Stephanie McMahon, who had not stepped in a WWE ring or at least wrestled in a WWE ring in nearly 11 years. That's insane. She came in there looking like she was in great shape in her in-ring attire. And Brie Bella is not the most amazing in-ring worker either. I got a lot of shit for that when I wrote an article earlier this year, right after the Royal Rumble, about how AJ versus Stephanie McMahon, AJ Lee versus Stephanie, should have been a feud, or should have been the feud for WrestleMania. That could have been a marquee addition to the WrestleMania 31 card. Ultimately, though, it did not come to fruition. AJ left afterwards. We never got the match. But I did say in the article that, if even Brie Bella, who is not known for her in-ring skills, could get a great match out of Stephanie, imagine the match that AJ could get out of her. And that elicited a lot of heat from a lot of the Bella Twins fans. And I'm not going to take that statement back, but I will say that Brie Bella and Nikki have, obviously gotten a lot better in the ring. They're still not great. Brie Bella is, far from the greatest wrestler in that division right now, especially, but she has improved, and it was, definitely a competent match. She held her own. Stephanie at one point, the commentators were saying how much she dominated Brie Bella throughout the match, which is weird, ultimately considering she went over. But it was a good match, though. Stephanie really, there were chances of "you still got it," which was pretty funny. And she did. I mean, she was never an active wrestler to begin with, but the showing she had in this match was impressive. And we got to the finish. Triple H comes out, who was kind of an integral part of this feud, and especially considering Daniel Bryan was a part of his whole feud with Triple H, and Daniel Bryan was the main feud going into WrestleMania 30 only a few months before this. So Triple H comes out, is about to help Stephanie win. Out comes Nikki Bella, who oddly does not do anything. And then when Brie Bella, she drop kicks. She does a baseball slide to Triple H on the outside of the ring. He's down and out. Nikki Bella enters the ring. They surround Stephanie. They're about to go twin magic, whatever they call it, on Stephanie. When Nikki pulls Stephanie out of the way, hits Brie with an elbow. Crowd goes nuts, and nuts in terms of shocking, or they chant yes because they wanted it to happen, whatever. The shocker of the night, which a lot of people already saw coming anyway, but it was a fine moment. I don't really mind it. It was a nice little twist, I guess. Not considering what we got after it. I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, Nikki helps Stephanie pick up the victory, and that was it. Stephanie McMahon is your winner. So the match I thought was competent. The tease, or the twist of Nikki turning here. For a moment, people bought into it. People popped for the finish. It's not like they were completely dead for it. Some people were booing, some people were shocked, some people were cheering. It elicited a reaction, so that much was, it was successful in that respect. But, ultimately, I would regret that happening in the months that followed because of the feud that we got out of it between Nikki and Brie, which was probably some of the worst TV I've ever had to endure as a wrestling fan. That was absolutely awful. I mean, I blame more so the writing than the two women themselves. I'm not a Bella Twins fan at heart, but the writing of that feud was just absolutely atrocious. I'm not going to go into that right here, but this was kind of course, the starting point of that terrible feud that would follow. But for what this was, though, as a standalone moment and a standalone match, I enjoyed it a lot better than I thought it would be, and good work from both Stephanie and Brie Bella in this match. So we get to the second to last match here on the show, Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton, in a very solid match. Kind of started out, pretty basic, kind of a mechanical match. Orton, for whatever you say about him, whether he's a babyface, a tweener, or a heel, or whatever, Whether you find him boring or extremely entertaining, the guy is a natural in that ring and can always produce a great match with the right opponent. Roman Reigns was that guy. Roman Reigns may not have had many moves in his arsenal and may not still have that to this day. But Orton got the best out of him for sure. They put on a very solid match that I thoroughly enjoyed. So a solid match early on. It really picked up in the final few minutes, especially with that RKO out of nowhere, which was absolutely astonishing. I mean, Randy Orton's RKOs were pretty great, but I completely forgot about this. With all the amazing RKOs that we've gotten in the last couple of months alone, the one on Seth Rollins on Raw recently, the one at Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, and all the other great RKOs that we've gotten in the last number of months, I completely forgot about this one, that this one even happened. And it's not like he waited before pinning Reigns. He pinned Reigns immediately. So when Reigns kicked out, it meant something. And not everyone kicks out of the RKO. So that was a great moment. Reigns followed up with the spear shortly thereafter to pick up the victory. And Michael Cole, very emotional in commentary, saying that this was a quote-unquote statement match for Reigns and him picking up his biggest win up to that point. And at that point, a lot of people, after what we saw in the main event, a lot of people thought that he was going to be the one to conquer Brock Lesnar. Now, of course, he would get that main event match. He would not win, which would ultimately be for the for the better in the long term, considering what has happened, in the months since then. But it was a big win for Roman Reigns and a really good match. Randy Orton putting Roman Reigns over in grand style. This was, Randy Orton hadn't won a match on pay-per-view in months. I think the last pay-per-view match he won before this was Elimination Chamber, or before Night of Champions against Jericho. He had a very good match with he won the match at Elimination Chamber like 7 months before that. So Randy Orton was not the most credible heel at that time, but it's still Randy freaking Orton, a multi-time WWE and World Heavyweight Champion. So a win over him especially established Reigns as a threat to be, as a force to be reckoned with in singles competition as he kind of slowly built himself up to the WWE World title picture. So then we get to the main event, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match, with John Cena defending against Brock Lesnar. So the build all, going into this match was primarily about Brock Lesnar breaking the streak at WrestleMania against The Undertaker, how he was on, a hot streak going into this matchup. But I also loved how they acknowledged, both in the build and in the promo leading up to this match, how, their initial match against one another, not, back in 2003, but the match they had faced each other in, after Lesnar returned to the company in 2012, their match at Extreme Rules that year, and how Lesnar lost, and how he could not beat John Cena in a big match situation. So he was kind of, I wouldn't say he was the underdog here, but they also had that kind of going for them. And, that was a result that still, to this day, does not make any sense whatsoever. So to say that, and also to think that, if WWE could fuck up, a Lesnar win even then, what are their chances of it happening on this show? It kind of planted that doubt in people's minds, especially throughout this match, and I know I was not the only one that thought when Lesnar was dishing out all this punishment on John Cena that he would at some point battle back, hit the AA and win. Now, at one point he did, out of nowhere hit the attitude adjustment, and he got a very close 2 count. My heart was beating through my chest when that happened, because I was very nervous he was actually going to win there. But other than that, though, this was 99% Brock Lesnar. This was a prison beating of the Chain Gang Commander. Just an excellent squash. I think maybe perhaps the first official squash match in WWE pay-per-view main event history. It was incredible. Just an absolutely amazing thing to watch unfold, and especially considering it was John Cena. It wasn't like it was, Randy Orton or CM Punk, who put forth the better fight than John Cena did. CM Punk, who had faced him 1 year before this, allowed him to get no offense in whatsoever. 16 German suplexes, just absolutely brutal. And it really gave Lesnar that over-the-top feel. Like, that essence about him, that screams star, that screams monster, that still has that essence. He still has that essence to this day. What I'm trying to get at, though, is it's John Cena. It's John Cena, a guy that rarely takes clean losses, especially in something like this. The first ever squash match in the history of his WWE career. It was just absolutely just amazing to watch unfold. It was incredible. But yeah, I thought this was, it's hard to call it like a great match because it wasn't like a 5-star masterpiece, but because it was something new, it was something fresh, it was something unique that we have never seen before and might never ever see again. I loved it. I loved every single second of it. Like I said, it also kind of built off that suspense. And John Cena was the perfect guy for it because no one ever thought he would be squashed by Brock Lesnar. And maybe they had the same thing planned in mind for Daniel Bryan had he had not gotten injured, and they would have done the match between those two at SummerSlam. I have no idea. But in terms of, John Cena's character is kind of, known for being, winning at the last second despite being beat up for a shitload of the contest. He comes back and he wins. So there was that doubt in people's minds, myself included, where some people thought he could battle back in this bout and beat Brock Lesnar. Thankfully, that was not the case. Lesnar with 2 F5s, one within the first 45 seconds of the match. And then after that, he hits a second F5 towards the end after 16 minutes of just cruel punishment on John Cena. Lesnar recovers Cena, picks up the 1-2-3, and becomes the WWE World Heavyweight Champion for the first time in 10 years. 10 years he had been champion, or not been champion since, in WWE anyway. But just a great way of going off the show. Just a great show from start to finish. And I said this then, I'll say it now. John and I agreed. If the quote-unquote worst match on this show is Rusev versus Jack Swagger, what was Rusev versus Swagger, which was entertaining in its own right, then it's a great show. That was a pretty good match. But in comparison to everything else, everything else was just so great. Even Paige and AJ Lee, which was not... should have gotten a lot more time than it did. I was a little bit disappointed by that, but other than that, though, it was a fun little match. Had the right result. Ziggler and Miz, a very underrated opener in SummerSlam history, in my opinion. A very good IC title match, and they kicked off the night on a high note. And the right result as well. That was a nice little pleasantly surprising result. Rollins and Ambrose, again, a fantastic lumberjack match and made do with what they had, and just chaotic brawl that I enjoyed from start to finish. Wyatt and Jericho, significantly better than their Battleground match, and I enjoyed that match too. Stephanie and Brie Bella exceeded expectations, gave us a moment with the Nikki Bella heel turn. Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, very, very solid match with the right finish, with the right winner, and a great finishing sequence as well. And then the main event, like I said, a very special main event, I guess is the best way to describe it, with Lesnar essentially squashing John Cena. So start to finish, an exceptional show from SummerSlam 2014, and the best way to kind of wrap up my SummerSlam review series here on WrestleRant. So I'm going to get your guys' thoughts on SummerSlam 2014 or any other SummerSlam I have reviewed here on WrestleRant in the last 2 months. You guys can either tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gstem.matthews. Be sure to give the page an old thumbs up too. And be sure to leave a comment down below. Like, share, subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated, as many of you already know. I will be in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center for both NXT TakeOver on Saturday in addition to SummerSlam on Sunday. So therefore, there will be no new review on Sunday. In terms of what's next for WrestleRant, I'll get to that in a second. But this is the final WrestleRant video for the weekend. And then, of course, we'll have prediction videos up today on Saturday and on Sunday. My predictions are... prediction panels from the last episode of WrestleRant Radio on August 18th this past week on Tuesday. So I'll have those videos up. No traditional WrestleRant video tomorrow, though. If all goes according to plan, because I'm going to be extremely busy on Saturday and Sunday, obviously, because I'll be taking trains back and forth to Brooklyn for NXT and then for SummerSlam. But if all goes according to plan, if I do get some time on Monday to watch a show and then review it in time for Tuesday, going forward for the next several weeks anyway, we will be reviewing Unforgiven shows from 1998 to 2008 here in WrestleRant. I know some people have suggested that before, and I'm looking forward to watching those pay-per-views back and reviewing them here on the channel for the next several weeks. I'm pretty sure up until maybe mid or maybe the entire month of September. I think we're going back to the old schedule of one video on Tuesday, one on Saturday. I've already mapped out the entire WrestleRant schedule up until WrestleMania of next year. If all goes according to plan, anyway. If all goes the way I want it to. But it's been so far so good. I mapped it out months ago, back earlier this year, and we have not missed an episode since. I missed a few days, but we make up for it by either posting 2 videos a weekend or whatever. I'm not exactly sure about that. Do not take my word for it, but some people have been asking, what's next for WrestleRant? What are you reviewing next after SummerSlam? And I believe it's Unforgiven. Maybe after Unforgiven, it might be No Mercy. I'm not exactly sure. And maybe after No Mercy, we might have something else after that. I'm not exactly sure. But I do know, though, I did map out my reviews of what I did for WrestleMania and now for SummerSlam. I will be doing for Survivor Series in addition to the Royal Rumble as well in November and January, respectively, here on the channel. So stay tuned for that. A lot of great things on WrestleRant and the rest of the channel in the months to come. So stay tuned for all of those exciting updates. So in the meantime, and in between time, folks, thank you for supporting this entire SummerSlam review series. Like I said earlier, it's been a lot of fun watching these shows back, reviewing these shows, talking about these shows with these guys, talking about these shows with you guys in the comments section on Twitter and on Facebook. It's been a blast, so thank you. You guys are the best, and be sure to keep on subscribing, and we'll keep on building towards the 800 subscriber mark and eventually 1,000. So with that being said, guys, enjoy the rest of your SummerSlam weekend. Enjoy the SummerSlam tomorrow. Hopefully we can review SummerSlam 2015. It's good enough to review here in the channel for next August. But anyway, guys, enjoy SummerSlam tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your phenomenal weekend. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch you guys down the road.